Hey everyone, it's Ethan or Miist back again for another video today, and welcome back to the channel, guys. We're here again for yet another video, and today we're going to be talking about every movie I watched last week. And overall, I had a very interesting week. I have some new, a new 100 out of 100 perfect movie, plus a rewatch of a perfect movie, and I also have my second least favorite watch ever at a 1 out of 0, or 1 out of 100. I was going to say 1 out of 0. 1 out of 100, which we'll get into very shortly, but I'm actually going to start it off with like kind of watch of the week. So let me just push over a little bit. And we'll start it off with Moana. Now, I'm not really going to spend much time on Moana because I didn't actually watch the full movie. I came home one night from work earlier this week, and Mel was with one of her friends, and they were watching Moana, and it was the first time Mel had ever seen it, and I'd seen like the last 35 minutes of it with her, so I just ranked it to get my numbers up, because, you know, but yeah, we're going to rewatch it together later this year before Moana 2 comes out, so that'll be exciting. But yeah, not changing my ranking for this one either. There's no need to until I rewatch the movie. So with that being said, let's actually get into it with, like I mentioned, my second least favorite watch ever, Beautiful Wedding, which I ranked a 1 out of 100. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this movie because it was fucking garbage. Like, irredeemable garbage. My review was tragically, horrifyingly, unjustifiable garbage. I did not like anything about this movie except for once throughout the entire movie. I had like a dry chuckle. I don't even remember what it was from or what it was for, but I absolutely hated this movie. I did not enjoy it at all. And yeah, I only learned actually after that this was a sequel as well, which we'll talk about the prequel right now, because Beautiful Disaster, a 20 out of 100. Not me thinking these two movies were the same movie, so that's unfortunate. They have a combined rank of a 21 out of 100 for me, which is really, really not good. Yeah, I mean, it's not as bad as the sequel by any means, but it's still not good, not by any means. I think these two movies have like a combined like a 3.1 on Letterboxd, which is really sad, like from their averages. Again, I'm not going to spend much time on either of these movies, so let's just move on to another 2024 release, which is Race for Glory, Audie versus Lancia. And this was a movie I was expecting to learn a lot about Audie and Lancia. I didn't really learn anything about either of them, and overall this movie wasn't very interesting to me. It was just okay, you know, it was fine. I ranked it a 55 out of 100, like, it was okay. You know, that's really just the best way I can put it. The sound design was pretty solid, but honestly, I couldn't tell you anything about this movie. I really don't remember anything that happened in this movie, so yeah, I mean, with that being said, let's just move on to a short film which I watched this week, The Melodic Blue, Baby Keem, which did come out last year. I just ranked it 60 out of 100. I did enjoy this. It was a really unique concept, but obviously you don't get a lot of time with this movie. It's only actually about 15 minutes, so, and there's not really much of like a progression or really much of a, there is a plot, but there's not like a whole lot of plot in this short story, and it's just kind of to add to the album, which is one of my favorite albums of all time. I absolutely love The Melodic Blue, and it was nice to revisit some of these songs because it's putting me back into a Baby Keem era, because I have not been listening to a lot of rap lately, a lot of music at all, but especially not rap lately. So this has kind of been pushing me back into it, which is nice, and revisiting some older Baby Keem, which is really nice as well. So overall, 60 out of 100, nothing too special, but let's keep going to Fool's Gold. And I seen that this was leaving Netflix soon. I decided to put it on, and I realized like pretty quickly into the movie, like one of the first scenes, that I'd actually seen this movie years ago. I know I've watched this movie before on Netflix, I'm pretty sure. So I remembered a lot of it actually, especially like the first little bit, like first half an hour or so probably. And yeah, I mean, overall I enjoyed it. I would say it was a decent movie. Ranked it a 69 out of 100. All I wrote for my review, obviously you can read it. I just wish I looked like Matthew McConaughey because he's just a man and I'm just a guy. He's just a very attractive man and I wish I looked like him. And with that being said, let's move on to Travis Scott, Look Mum, I Can Fly. A very interesting documentary about Travis Scott and mostly about Astroworld, which this was a recommendation from my friend Matt, who's a big Travis Scott fan. Unfortunately, I am not. I wish I was a bigger Travis Scott fan because I'm just not, unfortunately. He's got hits, he's got bangers, but from an album standpoint, I don't like his albums, unfortunately. And Travis Scott is really the only artist that I have tried so many times to get into his music and that I want to get into his music, but I just don't like his music that much, unfortunately. Although a big part of this documentary is, of course, the lead up to the Grammy, I guess, win or loss for Astroworld. Of course, losing to Invasion of Privacy by Cardi B, which is still wild. But yeah, Astroworld, iconic. Obviously, this album is great. It's definitely my favorite Travis album. And yeah, I mean, not much I can say about it. It's a super chaotic documentary, which really fits, Travis Scott, in my opinion. Without a doubt, my favorite scene from this movie is, of course, No Bystanders, with Juice WRLD, sorry, Jesus. Anyways, really, really enjoy that scene. It's been, it's a clip I've seen for years now. Same with the Grammy reaction as well. There's so many iconic scenes from this documentary that I didn't realize came from this documentary. So that was really cool, and to see some insight on that was pretty awesome. But some of them are just so iconic, unfortunately, like that Grammy one, and fortunately like the No Bystanders one, because that one is just really hype and really exciting. And R.I.P. the GOAT. Obviously it's 6, but R.I.P. the GOAT. So let's move on to Gran Torino, which I also ranked a 75 out of 100. Another good movie, a very interesting movie, really talking on how Americans are towards foreigners and other races, especially if you were a war veteran. And it was a really interesting outlook that's never been something I've thought of either. So it was really cool to kind of think about that and see that. So that was interesting. And this was also my 1,000th watch on Letterboxd. Not 1,000 different movies, but this was my 1,000th different watch. Or not different, I guess, sorry. Just watch on Letterboxd. I've ranked 1,000 movies on Letterboxd now, which is pretty interesting because I only started spring 2022, so it's been a little over 2 years, which is kind of wild actually, especially because most of my movies came from last year and this year. I've basically watched a third of that total this year, so I'm right around that 330 mark. Let me actually check, because I think I'm literally like 331 or something. I'm currently 332, so I'm basically legitimately just a third of the way there this year, which is actually kind of cool. But overall, Gran Torino, another movie I really enjoyed. There was times where I liked it more, there was times where I liked it less, so that's why it's like a 75. It's a pretty average rating for me. A lot of movies I watch are around that number, so it's good, don't get me wrong, but it was kind of average for my standards, I guess. So with that being said, let's move on to the freshest watch, which is Inside Out 2, which I seen tonight with Mel and our friends. We went on a double date, and it was a good movie. Not my favorite, but we'll talk about Inside Out later. Overall, I did enjoy this movie. It pulled at the heartstrings, but nowhere near as much as the first movie. But I will say, definitely my favorite scene from this movie, and the best scene from this movie, is the panic attack or the anxiety attack that Riley is facing, and how it just takes control, it takes over your brain. And I thought it was a really good way to show what that looks like, because you just freeze. You just can't do anything, unfortunately. And if you've had that, you know exactly what that feels like. And I feel like it was a pretty good representation of it. And overall, a very interesting movie, a very interesting sequel. Mel and I were making, not jokes, but like kind of jokes about adding other emotions and more so like mental health things like OCD, ADHD, ODD, like that would be interesting to see like how those would affect a person as well, because obviously those could be quite different, right? So with that being said, I did enjoy Inside Out 2, but I think I had really high expectations after the first one, which again we'll talk about here shortly. So with that being said, let's move on to Sunshine, which is my first Danny Boyle watch, which was really interesting. So it was a pleasant movie to watch, and it was a great way to start his filmography. I think I'm going to try to go through his films here more over the next few weeks, because I had a great time with this movie. I ranked it an 82 out of 100. This is a stacked cast, and this is visually one of the most appealing sci-fi movies, and just movies of the... I think of a movie I've seen. Like, I've watched a little over 800 different movies, and this has truly some of the best visuals I've seen, and this is really pushing boundaries back in 2007 as well, and this was a really beautiful film to watch. I really enjoyed it. I seem to be right around the average of what people enjoy about this movie, seems to be a 3.5 or a 4-star, and I'm right around that same thing. So yeah, I really enjoy this movie, though. Like I said, a visual masterpiece, a visual masterclass with tremendous special effects, especially for 2007. So let's move on to what I believe to be the top 3 now, which is an interesting top 3 for sure. It's 3 very different movies, but we'll start off with Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, which a few weeks ago, Mel and I had gone over to my friend Goose's or Ryan's, and we watched Man of Steel, and we're still going to continue to go through some of the DCEU together. Obviously, up next was Batman vs. Superman, and we both we were really happy to rewatch this, me and Goose, and it was really nice to get to show Mel this movie because it was a first-time watch for her as well, and she did enjoy it. She enjoyed it more than Man of Steel, so that kind of hurts me personally because BVS is my least favorite of the 3, but it's also Goose's favorite of the 3. But he kind of flip-flops between all 3 of the trilogy. So, anyways, I love this movie very, very much. Still, I get to watch the Ultimate Edition for the first time as well this time, so that was nice. I didn't change my ranking though. Still a 91 out of 100. And yeah, an amazing movie in my opinion. So let's move on to 100 out of 100, starting it off with the newest 100 out of 100, which is Inside Out. And oh man, I don't really know how to explain this. I kind of wish Mel was here for this, because we watched this for the first time, for my first time watching this movie earlier this week. Mel has seen it before, but she's seen it like when it came out. She was a kid. She was only like 12 or 13, so she was quite young. I had never seen it. I would have been like 15. So yeah, and now at 22 years old, watching this movie, as an emotional man, as an emotional guy, I was absolutely tossed this entire movie. I have never cried so much at a movie in my entire life. It was absolutely devastating. It was brutal. It was heartbreaking. I had such a tough time watching this movie. Like I said, no movie has ever gotten this much emotion out of me before. It was absolutely wild, and it was crazy, but I loved every single second of this movie. I think it is absolutely perfect. The newest 100 out of 100 to join the club. Yeah, I loved absolutely everything about this movie, and I really can. You can read my review. Honestly, I just kind of rambled a lot, but as soon as we started losing islands, I was absolutely done for, man. And then after the movie, Mel and I were just sobbing, and we just kept going up to Betty, our cat, and we were so, we were just so interested, like, obviously, is that what our brains look like? Probably not, but, like, we both said, like, we have a kitty island, we have a pet island for our animals and for our pets because we love them, and they would be one of our most important things. They are one of our most important things, or one of the most important things in our lives. And that's just, we kept making jokes like I wonder if we are one of Betty's islands, and I don't know. It was a really emotional night. It was a really emotional night. Yeah, I don't even know what to say. Like I said, I feel like I was just rambling right now. I'll say one thing that really opened my eyes about this movie is how much I miss hockey, because I grew up playing hockey. I played hockey for half of my life. I started pretty late. I started when I was 9 or 10, which is pretty late. Usually most kids start around like 3, 4, 5. So I was pretty late to the game, but I loved hockey, and my passion for a long time was hockey. When I was a younger teenager, a younger adult, I went to school for hockey, and I just fell out of my love for hockey, and I just know I don't have a hockey island anymore, and that made me really sad, and I really struggle with that, and oh man, I don't want to talk about this movie anymore. Alright. Let's move on to my favorite movie of the week, which is a rewatch, like I mentioned earlier, but it is Knives Out, which I ranked a 100 out of 100, of course. This is a perfect murder mystery film that is absolutely amazing, and I love everything about this movie, with the absolutely tremendous cast, to the twists, the turns, the plot, the writing, the reveal, the twist. I don't even know. It's just epic. This movie is truly epic, and I'm glad I get to rewatch it with Mel, because Mel hasn't seen it in a long time, and hopefully this week we're going to watch Glass Onion, which she's never seen, so that'll be interesting. But with that being said, thank you guys all so much for watching. Hopefully you did enjoy. Sorry this one was a long one. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.